Ladies and gentlemen, hear me clearly. This is not a moment for casual listening. This is a prophetic interruption. There are times when God does not whisper, He thunders. You didn't stumble on this message by accident. You are not watching or listening because you're curious. You are here because heaven is ready to make a bold announcement to earth, and you are the one God is speaking to. You are the chosen one. You didn't volunteer, you were appointed. You didn't plan for it, but you were prepared for it, and deep down, you knew something was coming. You felt it when others said you were just overthinking. You sensed it when doors shut in your face, and you didn't understand why. You knew something was shifting, but you didn't have the language to describe it. But now the waiting season is over. What God whispered in the shadows is about to walk into the spotlight. Here, you were chosen, not randomly selected. That is the truth you must settle in your spirit before you step into the fullness of what God has prepared for you. Divine assignments do not begin with personal ambition. They begin with divine intention. Long before you were aware of your own name, before you even drew your first breath, before you had the capacity to make a decision, God made a decision about you. He called you. He appointed you. He formed you with purpose and strategy in mind. You were not made to simply survive. You were born to represent something eternal in a temporary world. You are the evidence that God had a plan. You are not an afterthought. You are not a backup plan. You are not filling in for someone else. You are not given your calling because someone else rejected theirs. You are not God's second choice. You are the first idea in His mind for the specific territory, season, and assignment you carry. That's why your journey has been different. That's why people never quite understood you. That's why you've always felt the pull to something greater, even when you couldn't see it clearly. Your difference was never dysfunction, it was divine distinction. God set you apart before you even knew what apart meant. And many people confuse being chosen with being celebrated. That is a mistake. Being chosen doesn't mean people cheer for you. It means heaven trusts you. And trust from heaven is heavier than applause from people. When God chooses someone, He assigns weight to them. Spiritual weight, prophetic responsibility, kingdom relevance. That weight presses on you in the night when others are sleeping. That weight presses you to pray when others are partying. That weight calls you into solitude when others are drawn to crowds. You didn't choose to be different. God marked you. And when you're marked by heaven, you can't blend in with earth. When God selects someone, He does it with foresight and strategy. You didn't earn your calling, you were born with it. You don't have to prove it, you have to walk in it. Heaven's selection process is not based on your resume. It's based on your destiny. God sees the end before the beginning. He assigns based on outcome, not appearance. That means even your weaknesses were factored in, your doubts, your failures, your limitations. They were all part of the plan. God never needed you to be perfect. He just needed you to be His. That's why the battles you face don't look like the battles others face. It's not because you're cursed. It's because you're carrying something heavy. Chosen people don't live casual lives. There's a cost to the call. There's warfare that surrounds the womb of destiny. Even before you fully realized who you were, the enemy tried to stop you. He attacked you early. He attacked your mind. He attacked your relationships. He tried to bury you in confusion and insecurity before you ever discovered your identity. Because he knew if you ever find out who you really are, everything changes. Heaven doesn't choose based on what you have. It chooses based on what you carry. You don't need more qualifications. You need more confidence in what God already put inside you. You don't have to look the part. You don't have to sound like someone else. You don't need to compete for relevance. You were chosen by the King, which means your relevance is not up for debate. It was decided in eternity. What people say about you cannot override what God has spoken over you. The world doesn't get to vote on your calling. The only voice that matters already spoke. You are mine. You're not just chosen for blessings. You're chosen for building. You're chosen to shift atmospheres, break generational curses, walk in legacy, and carry light into dark systems. You're not called to echo what's already been said. You're called to announce something heaven wants released now. That's why God protected you in seasons you thought would kill you. That's why certain relationships didn't last. That's why you couldn't stay where others settled. That's why your journey hasn't followed the typical route. Because your life is not about comfort, it's about calling. And when you are chosen, comfort becomes secondary to purpose. Some of the greatest pain you've endured came not because of your mistakes, but because of your mantle. You didn't know it then, but heaven was training you. What looked like abandonment was actually alignment. What felt like rejection was really redirection. What seemed like silence was sacred instruction. Because when God chooses you, He doesn't send you to the crowd, He sends you to process. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are right on schedule. Destiny doesn't operate by earthly timelines. God is not measuring you by your age, but by your obedience. You might not have grown up in a perfect family. You may not have the financial support others had. You may have been overlooked, underestimated, even labeled. But heaven saw everything and still said, "You're the one." Your calling was never dependent on human approval. You are chosen by design. That means you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You are not late. You are not less than. You are not too broken to be used. You are evidence that grace still speaks louder than your history. When you are chosen, you must come to terms with the fact that your life is not your own. You are an ambassador, a carrier of the kingdom. You are heaven's answer to an earthly crisis. You are not here just to pay bills and die. You are not just trying to survive. You were born to represent a dimension of God's nature that only you can reveal in your space, in your generation, in your language, and in your way. You don't have to be famous to be chosen. You don't have to be on a platform. Chosen doesn't mean popular. Chosen means faithful. Chosen means trusted. Chosen means sent. You're not being called into convenience. You're being called into clarity. And the clarity is this: heaven has need of you. You don't need another sign. You are the sign. You don't need more time. You have been given this time. And you don't need to try to become chosen. You already are. All that's left to do is respond. Delay is not denial. It is easy to believe that because something didn't happen when you expected it, it must not be for you. But in the economy of God, timing is just as important as purpose. A seed planted in the wrong season will fail, no matter how powerful its potential. And so it is with your life. The delays you have faced, the waiting seasons you have endured, the long nights of wondering when your moment would come, they were never evidence of rejection. They were evidence of preparation. When God assigns a destiny, He also assigns a process. Process is the proving ground of purpose. It is where character is forged, where vision is refined, where humility is developed, and where strength is built. Without process, your gift would become your downfall. Without process, the weight of your assignment would crush you instead of crown you. Delay is heaven's way of building an internal infrastructure strong enough to carry external influence. Every hidden season, every silent year, every overlooked opportunity was necessary to prepare you for what is now at hand. You see, premature exposure can be more dangerous than prolonged preparation. If you had stepped into the fullness of your calling before the roots of your identity were strong enough, the applause of people would have destroyed you. If you had walked into the platforms God promised before you learned to find your affirmation in Him alone, the pressures would have poisoned you. Sometimes God's greatest act of mercy is in His refusal to release you too soon. It was not that God forgot. It was that He remembered. He remembered the greatness He put inside you. And He knew greatness requires time. The problem is that waiting looks like wasting when you don't understand process. Many gave up in the hallway between the prophecy and the fulfillment because they mistook the delay for a denial. But God is not a man that He should lie. What He spoke over you is still alive. It was never cancelled, only cultivated. The vision didn't die in the delay. It was maturing. Like a tree planted by the waters, you have been growing underground where no one could see you, and that hidden growth was more important than the visible recognition you craved. Hiddenness is not punishment, it is protection. God hid you to heal you. He hid you to mature you. He hid you so that when the spotlight comes, you are not blinded by it. Think about the life of David. Anointed in secret, yet sent back to the fields to tend sheep. There was a long gap between his anointing and his appointing. What was happening in those fields? Preparation, intimacy with God, mastery of skill, learning leadership without titles, learning warfare without armies. David was not being sidelined, he was being sharpened. Likewise, your wilderness was not the enemy's triumph, it was God's workshop. Delay tests the motives of your heart. It reveals whether you want the promise or the promiser. It reveals whether your worship is tied to outcomes or rooted in obedience. God will often allow the timeline to stretch beyond your expectations to expose what cannot enter your next season. Impatience, pride, entitlement, fear. These impurities are surfaced in the fire of delay. They are not surfaced to shame you, but to free you. The delay was the place where you learned that God is still good, even when the doors stay shut. The delay taught you that favor is not just open opportunities. Favor is sustained intimacy with the King. You thought you were waiting on God, but heaven was working on you. You thought nothing was happening, but everything was happening inside you. You grew in patience, in wisdom, in discernment. You learned to hear God's whisper without needing public affirmation. You learned that your identity cannot be rooted in achievements, because achievements come and go, but sonship and daughterhood are eternal. The delay purified your assignment from ambition. It separated performance from calling. It built a foundation under your gift so that when the rain comes, you will not fall. In the delay, you learned how to fight quietly. You learned how to worship when you had no visible winds to show. You learned how to keep showing up, keep praying, keep building, even when there were no signs that anyone noticed. That perseverance was not in vain. It created a resilience in you that no public recognition can substitute. Now, you are ready not only to handle promotion, but to sustain it. You are not a flash of brilliance that disappears with the first storm. You are an oak of righteousness, rooted deep, standing tall, unshaken. Delay also creates distinction. If God had allowed you to rise with the crowd, you would have blended in. But because your timing is different, your sound will be different. Your voice will carry a depth that comes only from surviving dry seasons. Your words will have weight because they were forged in silence. Your leadership will have authority because it was birthed in surrender. The world does not need more noise. It needs voices that have been refined in the hidden place. You are that voice. You are that answer. And the delay was the birthplace of your distinction. Sometimes the greater the calling, the longer the preparation. Jesus himself spent 30 years in preparation for 3 years of public ministry. 30 years. Heaven was not in a rush, because the impact of his 3 years would echo into eternity. Likewise, the impact of your obedience will not be measured by quick results, but by eternal fruit. God is not preparing you for popularity. He is preparing you for legacy. The delay was necessary because your destiny is too heavy to be handled lightly. Heaven was making sure you were not just ready to step into your purpose, but ready to stay in it. Now when you walk through the doors God opens, you will not walk in with fear, you will walk in with clarity. You will not crumble under pressure, because pressure has already been your teacher. You will not seek validation from people, because you have already been validated by God in private. Your roots are deep, your faith is strong, your mind is sound, and your spirit is ready. You don't have to apologize for the time it took. You don't have to explain why you didn't rise when others did. You are arriving exactly when heaven ordained. The delay was never God's way of teasing you. It was his way of trusting you with more than you knew you could handle. The doors that are about to open are not small doors. They are kingdom-sized doors. And now, finally, you are ready to walk through them without losing yourself. Heaven has been preparing you for this moment all along. There comes a moment when what you have seen in the spirit becomes visible in the natural. There comes a moment when what you carried in your heart for years stands before you in real time. There comes a moment when the waiting ends, the warfare shifts, and the word God spoke over your life demands a response. That moment is now. The prophetic moment has arrived. What you were preparing for in silence is now requiring your voice in public. What you were nurturing in private is now demanding your stewardship in public spaces. The dreams you dared to believe when no one else could see them are now stepping into the light. This is not a season for hesitation, it is a season for manifestation. For a long time you lived by faith alone, fueled only by a word you received in prayer, a glimpse you saw in your spirit, a promise that made no sense in the natural. You moved when there was no evidence. You obeyed when there were no signs. You sowed when there was no harvest in sight. Heaven was training you to walk by faith and not by sight. And now, because you prove faithful in the invisible, this is not a new word. It is the old word coming into a new season. It is the fulfillment of what you have carried, travailed for, prayed over, and even wept for. Heaven is saying, it's time. The prophetic always precedes the physical. Before God changes your surroundings, He changes your sight. Before He shifts your circumstances, He shifts your spirit. Before you touch it, you must see it. Before you wear it, you must walk in it by faith. What you saw was not your imagination. What you heard was not fantasy. It was foresight. It was a glimpse into your future reality. God never gives a prophetic word to entertain you. He gives it to align you. Every instruction He gave you was strategic. Every redirection was intentional. Every closed door was divine. All of it was shaping you for this appointed time. You must understand that when the prophetic moment arrives, you cannot afford to treat it like an ordinary season. Prophetic moments carry a weight of responsibility. They require boldness, urgency, and discernment. When God says now, you cannot respond with, maybe later. When the window opens, you must step through it. Delay in the prophetic moment can cost you more than you realize. Just as preparation matters in waiting seasons, obedience matters in manifestation seasons. What you move on now determines what you possess later. When the children of Israel were delivered from Egypt, God gave them a prophetic word, a promised land flowing with milk and honey. But reaching the land required more than belief. It required movement. They had to step into the unknown, trust God's leading, and fight battles they never anticipated. Likewise, your prophetic moment will not be handed to you passively. It will require action, courage, and unwavering faith. You will have to walk into rooms you once only dreamed about. You will have to speak with authority where you once whispered with insecurity. You will have to own spaces that once intimidated you. The danger of arriving at a prophetic moment without recognizing it is that you can miss what heaven intended for you to occupy. Many people are still praying for a move of God that is already happening. They are waiting for confirmation when they should be executing the assignment. You cannot afford to be passive when destiny is knocking. You cannot afford to stay silent when heaven is calling you to speak. You cannot afford to hide when the anointing on your life is demanding exposure for the sake of influence and impact. This is not a drill. This is not a rehearsal. This is the moment you were made for. The warfare you faced before this season was not random, it was targeted. The enemy could sense that something was about to break in your favor. He launched distractions, attacks, and even discouragement campaigns to try and get you to quit right before the breakthrough. If you knew the size of the door opening before you, you would understand the size of the opposition you had to fight through. The level of warfare you endured is prophetic confirmation of the level of destiny you are stepping into. Heaven was preparing you to move in realms you once only prayed about. Now that the moment has arrived, the oil on your life will begin to flow differently. The words you speak will carry more weight. The prayers you pray will cause immediate shifts. The connections you make will accelerate divine appointments. What once took you years to build will happen in moments. God is compressing time for your sake. What was delayed is now being delivered. What was withheld is now being released. The wells that were once blocked are now springing up with living water. Opportunities that were hidden are now coming into plain view. you must also be prepared for the suddenness of God's move. Prophetic fulfillment often happens suddenly. One moment you are overlooked, the next you are being called to the forefront. One day you are in the fields, the next you are sitting at the table of kings. That's why you had to stay ready even when it felt like nothing was happening. Because when heaven moves, it moves fast. The same people who dismissed you will have to recognize the hand of God on you. The same spaces that rejected you will now request you. But your focus must remain on the assignment, not the applause. In this prophetic moment, your confidence must be rooted in God, not in circumstances. If you base your boldness on the visible alone, you will falter. But if you base your boldness on the one who called you, you will stand firm. You must walk like you belong, because you do. You must speak like you have authority, because you do. You must move like heaven is backing you, because it is. This is the season where the invisible becomes visible, where the intangible becomes tangible, where prophecy becomes history. And you are the vessel through whom God will perform it. The prophetic word was never meant to just inspire you. It was meant to position you. And now that the moment has arrived, you are stepping into rooms where your preparation meets opportunity. You are stepping onto platforms where your prayers become performance. You are stepping into relationships where divine alignment accelerates your mission. You are stepping into the fulfillment of what God promised long ago. The prophetic moment is not just about what is happening around you. It's about what is happening through you. Heaven is partnering with your obedience to birth what has never been seen before. You are not stepping into this moment empty-handed. You are stepping in carrying wisdom, carrying strategy, carrying discernment, carrying authority. Every tear you cried, every sacrifice you made, every hour you spent in hidden preparation was not wasted. It was stored up for this appointed time. The prophetic moment is here, and so are you. Ready, equipped, anointed, and appointed for such a time as this. There comes a time when believing is no longer enough. You must act. There comes a time when standing on the sidelines is no longer permitted. You must step onto the field. That time is now. You have prayed, you have prepared, you have endured, and now you must step into the fulfillment of God's promise boldly. This is not the hour to second-guess yourself. This is not the season to be timid or tentative. Heaven is already moved. Now earth is waiting on your response. You must walk through the open door with courage, with authority, with the full assurance that the God who called you is the God who goes before you. Boldness is not arrogance. Boldness is obedience with confidence. It is the courage to act on what you know God has said, even when you don't see all the details yet. It is the faith to move forward when fear tries to paralyze you. It is the inner knowing that because God is with you, nothing can stand against you. Every great move of God in history required bold individuals who chose to trust the invisible over the visible, who chose to obey the voice of God over the voices of doubt. You are now among them. Your name is being written into the story of those who dared to believe that if God spoke it, He would bring it to pass. Stepping into your destiny boldly means you refuse to apologize for the favor on your life. It means you stop shrinking to make others comfortable. It means you embrace the fullness of who God made you to be without watering it down for the approval of people who were never assigned to your journey. You were not called to fit in. You were called to stand out. You were not anointed to blend. You were anointed to build. Every part of your journey, the highs, the lows, the silent seasons, the private battles, has shaped a boldness in you that can no longer be hidden. You cannot afford to walk timidly into rooms that heaven has assigned to you. You cannot afford to whisper where God has called you to roar. You cannot afford to hesitate when destiny demands decisive action. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. That is not a spirit of fear. It is a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. When you walk in boldness, you are not just representing yourself, you are representing the kingdom. Your courage is a testimony. Your confidence is an announcement to the powers of darkness that their time of dominion is over. Boldness will cost you comfort. It will cost you approval. It will cost you the illusion of safety. But what it gives you is far greater. It gives you access to the fullness of what God has prepared. The Israelites stood on the edge of their promised land, but only Joshua and Caleb had the boldness to believe they could take it. The others saw giants and retreated in fear. Joshua and Caleb saw giants and moved forward in faith. What you see will determine how you step. If you see the obstacles as bigger than your God, you will stay stuck. But if you see your God as bigger than the obstacles, you will move forward with unstoppable boldness. You must now step into opportunities that once intimidated you. You must now speak in places where you once felt unworthy. You must now lead initiatives you once thought you were too inexperienced to manage. The anointing on your life qualifies you where your resume cannot. The favor on your life will open doors that education alone cannot. The hand of God on your life will make a way where logic says there is no way, but none of it manifests without your bold participation. Heaven has already said yes. Your boldness is the agreement required on earth. Fear will try to shout louder in this season because it knows it's losing its grip. Doubt will try to creep back in because it senses the shift taking place. But you must remember that fear is a liar and doubt is a thief. Fear comes to rob you of what is already yours. Doubt comes to blind you to what God has already placed in your hand. Boldness is your weapon. It silences fear. It blinds doubt. It moves you from wishing to walking, from hoping to harvesting, from dreaming to doing. You don't need another sign. You don't need another confirmation. You have already been commissioned by heaven itself. Stepping boldly also means embracing the unknown. Abraham was called to leave everything familiar and go to a land he had never seen. He obeyed, not knowing the full picture, trusting the one who had called him. Boldness does not mean you have all the answers. It means you trust the one who does. It means you move even when the path isn't fully visible, knowing that your steps are ordered by the Lord. It means you take risks led by the Spirit, knowing that obedience is always safer than staying in the comfort zone of disobedience. When you move boldly, you give permission for others to do the same. Your courage becomes contagious. Your faith becomes a catalyst. Your obedience becomes a blueprint for those who are watching your life. You are not just stepping into your destiny for yourself. You are breaking barriers for your bloodline. You are setting precedent for generations. You are releasing permission for others to dream, to believe, and to move. Your boldness carries generational weight. The enemy's greatest tactic is to intimidate you out of moving. If he cannot steal the promise, he will try to steal your confidence. But you must remind yourself daily, the God who started this is the God who will finish it. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move despite fear. Boldness is the resolve that what God has spoken is more real to you than any visible opposition. Boldness is a declaration that you are not backing down, not shrinking back, not retreating. You are advancing, you are possessing, you are occupying the territory heaven has assigned to you. Now is not the time to be cautious. Now is the time to be courageous. Now is not the time to weigh your options endlessly. Now is the time to move with decisive faith. Destiny does not wait for the perfect conditions. Destiny responds to bold obedience. The waters did not part for the Israelites until they stepped into them. The walls of Jericho did not fall until they marched around them. Peter did not walk on water until he stepped out of the boat. Every miracle on the other side of your obedience is waiting for your bold step of faith. You have spent enough time analyzing. You have spent enough time preparing. You have spent enough time praying prayers that God has already answered. The moment is here. The season is now. The door is open. The way is made. All that is required is that you step boldly into what God has spoken over you. Walk like it's already yours. Speak like it's already done. Build like heaven is backing you, because it is. There is a weight that comes with divine fulfillment. The weight of being living proof that God keeps His promises. Your life is about to become that proof. What was once a private promise whispered to you in the midnight hour will soon be a public testimony shouted from the rooftops. What you have travailed for in secret will now be celebrated openly, not for your glory, but for the glory of the one who sustained you. Every battle you fought, every tear you cried, every moment you wanted to quit but chose to believe instead, all of it was weaving together a story that would point directly to the faithfulness of God. When God fulfills a promise, it is never just about the individual. It is about showcasing His nature, His consistency, His unwavering integrity. He watches over His word to perform it. He is not a man that He should lie, nor the Son of Man that He should repent. If He spoke it, He will do it. If He declared it, He will bring it to pass. Your life is about to become a living sermon that will silence the mouths of doubters and skeptics. It will silence even the whispers of doubt that try to take root in your own heart. You will not need to argue with those who didn't believe in you. The evidence will speak louder than any words you could ever say. When people look at your journey, they will not be able to explain it by human effort alone. They will not be able to attribute it to natural talent, connections, or even your own strategies. They will have to conclude, surely the hand of the Lord was upon them. God is setting you up in such a way that your story cannot be plagiarized by human reasoning. It will be undeniably divine. The doors that open, the platforms you stand on, the opportunities that come flooding in, they will all carry the fingerprints of heaven. And when people ask how it happened, your answer will be simple. God did it. The reason your journey took longer than others is because God was building a foundation that could carry the weight of His glory. He was ensuring that when the promise manifested, it would not crush you. He was developing your character, expanding your capacity, stretching your faith muscles. He was rooting up pride, uprooting fear, tearing down insecurity, and establishing you on a firm foundation of trust. If He had given you the fulfillment too early, it would have overwhelmed you. But now, after the refining, after the purging, after the pruning, you are ready to carry the testimony with humility and honor. Your life will be a message to others that delays are not denials, that the promises of God are worth waiting for, that perseverance is never wasted. You will be a walking encouragement to the weary, a beacon of hope to the discouraged. People will see you and remember that God is not finished writing their story either. You will embody the truth that He who began a good work is faithful to complete it. Every step you take in the fulfillment of your destiny will echo that God can be trusted, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. There are people assigned to your testimony. There are souls tied to your breakthrough. There are lives that will be changed because you refuse to give up. Your endurance was not just about you. Your faith was not just personal, it was prophetic. You were standing in the gap for those who needed a living example that miracles still happen, that prayers are still answered, that visions still come to pass. When you step into this season, understand that your testimony carries weight far beyond your personal fulfillment. It is a seed that will spark faith in countless others. God is about to use the areas of your greatest pain as the platform for His greatest glory. The very wounds you thought disqualified you are the very places where His healing power will shine the brightest. The very failures you thought would end your story are about to become the evidence of His redemptive grace. The very losses you mourned are about to be answered with supernatural restoration. Nothing was wasted. Not a moment, not a tear, not a battle. Every piece is being woven into a tapestry that will shout to the world, "Look what the Lord has done." The fulfillment that is coming will not be small. It will not be something you can hide or downplay. God is about to do it big because He wants it to be undeniable. He is preparing to bless you in such a way that even those who never believed in you will have to acknowledge His hand. He is preparing to release favor that makes no sense to natural minds. He is preparing to catapult you into spaces and levels you could not have reached on your own. And when it happens, the narrative will not be about you. It will be about His faithfulness, His power, His goodness. Your gratitude in this season must match the magnitude of the fulfillment. You must live with an awareness that you are walking answers to prayers. You must steward the blessing with a heart of worship and humility. You must never forget the one who brought you through the wilderness, through the valley, through the fiery trials. Every opportunity, every blessing, every platform must be treated as sacred ground because it is a testament of His covenant-keeping nature. This is why the enemy fought you so hard. This is why hell unleashed attacks against your mind, your body, your relationships, your dreams. It wasn't just about stopping you. It was about stopping the testimony that your life was destined to become. But he failed. You are still standing. You are still believing. You are still moving forward. And because you did not bow, because you did not break, you are about to see the salvation of the Lord in the land of the living. There is a sound that is about to break forth from your life. The sound of victory, the sound of fulfillment, the sound of promises realized. It will not be a whisper. It will be a roar. It will resound in your family, in your community, in your generation. Your testimony will be a trumpet announcing that God still honors His word. You will live in the manifestation of everything you once only saw by faith, and it will all serve one purpose: to glorify the one who was faithful from beginning to end. There is a move of God that is not just personal but generational. When God does something in your life, it is never meant to stay contained within you. It is meant to overflow, to spread, to spark something in others who have been sleeping, doubting, or settling beneath their divine calling. Now is the time when others will look at you and something in them will awaken. Your testimony will not just inspire them. Your breakthrough will not just excite them. It will challenge them to rise up and believe again. You will become a living reminder that what God did for one, He can and will do for another. Your life will become a mirror showing people what is possible when a person dares to trust God completely. There are many who have grown weary in the waiting, tired in the believing. They have heard messages, they have sung songs, but deep inside their fire has grown cold. Life's disappointments have buried their dreams beneath layers of resignation. They have settled for survival when they were called to dominion. But when they see the hand of God upon your life, when they witness what has been birthed out of your faith and perseverance, it will resurrect what has been lying dormant inside of them. They will remember the prophecies spoken over their own lives. They will remember the dreams they once dared to dream. They will be stirred to pick up what they laid down and to hope again with holy boldness. Your journey has been public for a reason. Your struggles were visible not to shame you, but to authenticate the testimony that is now unfolding. People saw you in the valley. They watched you walk through seasons of scarcity, rejection, and isolation. They witnessed moments where it looked like nothing would ever change. That visibility was necessary because now the victory will also be visible. And when they see that the same person who struggled, the same person who was overlooked, the same person who was doubted, is now walking in undeniable favor and fulfillment, it will provoke something powerful in them. It will tear down the lie that it's too late, that they missed their chance, that God has forgotten them. There are people who need to see real evidence, not just hear empty promises. They need to see someone who endured hell and came out holding heaven's promises. They need to see someone who fought through the dark nights, the unanswered prayers, the lonely seasons, and still crossed into destiny. Your life is about to become that evidence. Your story is about to become that proof. You are the living, breathing manifestation of hope restored. You are the walking answer to the unspoken cries of people who have wondered if trusting God still matters. When they see you, it will be as if a sleeping army is being awakened to the sound of possibility again. This awakening is not about jealousy or competition. It is about awakening identity and destiny in others. It is about reminding people who they really are and what they were created for. Your elevation is not just your reward. It is their wake-up call. Your faithfulness has qualified you to be a catalyst for revival, not just in your life, but in the lives of those around you. Some who were content to stay in mediocrity will be jolted into excellence. Some who were ready to give up will suddenly find new strength. Some who were drifting will be called back to the narrow path with renewed passion. What God is doing in you is personal, but it is also deeply prophetic for those assigned to your voice and your journey. The glory that is being revealed through you will be magnetic. People will be drawn, not to your achievements, but to the presence of God resting on your life. They will sense something different, something holy, something undeniable. And as they draw near, they will realize that what they are really encountering is an invitation to believe again, to surrender again. Your life will preach louder than any sermon. Your obedience will testify louder than any words. You will be a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden, a light that exposes darkness and ignites hope in hearts that have been sitting in silence for far too long. The season you are entering is not just for you to enjoy quietly. It is for you to testify boldly. It is for you to declare without apology, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." It is for you to stand as a living banner of God's goodness, faithfulness, and mercy. You must not hide the blessing. You must not downplay the miracle. You must not minimize the manifestation. It is not pride to testify of God's power. It is obedience. Your story must be told because your story carries the seed of someone else's awakening. Let us understand that some who see elevation will initially respond with confusion or even resistance. Not everyone will celebrate immediately, but even those who criticize cannot deny the fruit. Even those who resist cannot ignore the transformation. And in time, even those who doubted will be among those who are inspired. The power of a true testimony is that it transcends opinions and pierces hearts. It speaks directly to the spirit, bypassing human reasoning, and calls forth destiny from the depths of people's souls. Your life will do that. Your journey will do that. Your testimony will do that. There are ministries, businesses, books, songs, movements, and missions that have been trapped inside of people, waiting for a catalyst to release them. Your life is about to be that catalyst. Your success will not just be success. It will be a summons. Your victory will not just be personal. It will be prophetic. You will not just cross into your promise. You will pave the way for many others to cross into theirs. As you rise, many will remember that they too were called to rise. As you build, many will remember that they too were called to build. As you conquer, many will remember that they too were called to conquer. You are not just stepping into a blessing, you are stepping into a responsibility. To whom much is given, much is required. You have been entrusted with influence, not for your own sake, but for the sake of awakening a generation. You have been entrusted with visibility, not to exalt yourself, but to exalt the one who brought you through. You have been entrusted with testimony, not to hoard it, but to release it like a river of living water, refreshing dry and barren hearts. As you walk in this season, walk with the awareness that eyes are watching, ears are listening, hearts are waiting. Someone's dream is tied to your boldness. Someone's breakthrough is tied to your testimony. Someone's awakening is tied to your obedience. You are the evidence they have been waiting for. You are the proof they have been praying for. You are the sign they have been seeking from heaven. And now, because you dared to believe, because you dared to endure, because you dared to step out, others will awaken. And the kingdom of God will advance through every life you ignite. Chosen one, hear me clearly. You have been prepared for such a time as this. Everything you endured was not in vain. Every promise you held on to, every dream you refused to bury, every word from God you chose to believe even when there was no evidence, all of it was leading to this moment. Now the hour has come. What God whispered to you in the quiet seasons, He is about to shout through your life in the open. What was hidden will now be revealed. What was planted in tears will now be harvested in joy. You are not stepping into this alone. Heaven is backing you. The winds of God are at your back. The favor of God is upon your head, and the destiny He designed for you is unfolding before your very eyes. Walk boldly, stand firmly, move swiftly. The world is about to witness what happens when a chosen one dares to believe, dares to obey, dares to become everything God ordained them to be. And when they see you, they will not just see a person, they will see the faithfulness of a God who never fails. It is here, it is now, and you, chosen one, are ready.